And this is the moment when we must give hope to those left behind in a globalized economy. We must remember that the Cold War born in this city was not a battle for land or treasure. 60 years ago, the planes that flew over Berlin did not drop bombs. Instead, they delivered food, coal, and candy to grateful children. And in that show of solidarity, those pilots won more than a military victory. They won hearts and minds, love and loyalty and trust, not just from the people in the city, but from all those who heard the stories of what they did here. Now the world will watch and remember what we do here, what we do with this moment. Will we extend our hand to the people in the forgotten corners of this world who yearn for lives marked by dignity and opportunity, by security and justice? Will we lift the child in Bangladesh from poverty, shelter the refugee in Chad, and banish the scourge of AIDS in our time? Will we stand for the human rights of the descendants in Burma, the blogger in Iran, or the voter in Zimbabwe? Will we give meaning to the words never again in Darfur? Will we acknowledge that there is no more powerful example than the one each of our nations projects to the world? Will we reject torture and stand with the rule of law? Will we welcome immigrants from different lands or shun discrimination against those who don't look like us or worship like we do? And keep the promise of equality and opportunity for all of our people. People of Berlin, people of the world, this is our moment, this is our time. I know my country has not perfected itself. Duh. I know my country has not perfected itself. At times, we've struggled to keep the promise of liberty and equality for all of our people. We've made our share of mistakes, and there are times when our actions around the world have not lived up to our best intentions. And I also know how much I love America. I know that for more than 2 centuries we have strived, at great cost and at great sacrifice, to form a more perfect union, to seek with other nations a more hopeful world. Our allegiance has never been to any other tribe or kingdom. Indeed, every language is spoken in our country, every culture has left its imprint on ours, every point of view is expressed in our public squares. What has always united us, what has always driven our people, what drew my father to America's shores, is a set of ideals that speak to aspirations shared by all people, that we can live free from fear and free from want, that we can speak our minds and assemble with whomever we choose and worship as we please. These are the aspirations that join the fates of all nations in this country. In this city. These aspirations are bigger than anything that drives us apart. It is because of these aspirations that the airlifts began. It is because of these aspirations that all free people everywhere became citizens of Berlin. It is in pursuit of these aspirations that a new generation, our generation, must make our mark on the world. People of Berlin and people of the world, the scale of our challenge is great. The road ahead will be long, but I come before you to say that we are heirs to a struggle for freedom. We are a people of improbable hope, with an eye towards the future, with resolve in our hearts. Let us remember this history and answer our destiny and remake the world once again. That was an awesome ass read. That was an awesome ass read. You know, before I go back to John McCain, this is awesome. I like to read historical books, but not. I like to read biographies and books on businesses and how businesses got started. How you know, especially like Costco. You realize that Costco is fighting off e-commerce without having to do much. You know what I mean? They do have a hot dog and a soda for $1.50. Can't go wrong with that. They're the one company who decides that they're gonna lose money on just selling to their customers, their members who come to their stores, a hot dog and a soda for $1.50. Who does that? Where do you hear that at? You can't even get a taco out here for $1.50 no more. Yes, you can. Some places $1.50. This was from Forbes. It was from February the 11th of 2015. Was it 3 years? Was it 2 years or 2 years after Whitney Houston died? Yeah, Whitney Houston passed away on February 11th. May she rest in perfect peace. And it was written by Claire O'Connor, and the title is How Ace Hardware Turned Corner Stores into a $4.7 billion co-op. When Jeremy Melnick's grandfather opened his first Ace Hardware store along Chicago's ritzy Gold Coast in 1950, there wasn't a whole lot of competition. Walmart and Arkansas's Five and Dime. Lowe's was 2 stores in North Carolina. Home Depot was still 29 years away from opening its first location. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos was 14 years shy of being born. The Melnicks, Jeremy 43 and Dad Les 67, owned 6 of the 4,794 Ace Hardware stores that make up the country's largest retail cooperative outside the grocery sector. Wow. Their family founded it, but they only own 6. The Melnicks should have ran for president. They're the true American success story. Now this fucker, this rapist of a racist. Yes, Trump is a rapist. I don't care what anybody say. Melania probably had to sign some NDA. She had to sign some non-disclosure agreement when she met him. That she's not gonna talk about all the things he did or force her to do. The fuck out of here. But hey, she was an immigrant who wanted to stay in America. You know what I mean? I feel you, Melanie. You know what I mean? From one immigrant to another, I feel your pain, girl. I wouldn't have put up with it though. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I wouldn't have put up with it. But yeah, that's just the African in me. I guess the Eastern European in you doesn't think like that. You know, white is white, right? As they've expanded their family business within a business into a local chain, some 20 Home Depots have cropped up along greater Chicago's highways and strip malls in the past 2 decades, each 100,000 square feet, versus the Melnick's 8,000 square feet corner stores. They surround us, Jeremy says. Not that he's complaining. Despite the competition, his business is good, surprisingly good, and so is his Hardware's bottom line. The Oak Brook, Illinois Co-op expects a year-on-year revenue increase of 13% to about $4.7 billion and a profit boost of 35% when it released its 2014 annual report in April, following 8 consecutive quarters of record sales. The reason for success, explains CEO John Van Huysen, a charismatic 44-year-old who speaks with the fervor of a preacher. It's store owners like the Melnicks, entrepreneurs with a deep knowledge of their local market, inventory fine-tuned to a neighborhood's demographic, and the sort of exacting customer service a typical big box store with low pay and high employee turnover can't match. Jeremy knows the make and model of bathroom faucets installed in every condo complex and apartment building within a short drive of all his Chicago stores, a boon in attracting fellow small business owners like local plumbers to Ace. It's a big deal, says Jeremy, a 22-year company veteran. It's a differentiator, and I'll tell you, it's exceedingly hard. Jeremy knows his store's strength. He doesn't sell lumber. For that, you can go to Home Depot or Lowe's. He does sell what seems like every kind of light bulb in production. When a bulb blows, he knows you'd rather grab a new one from your local Ace than navigate the labyrinth aisles of a big box or wait in the dark for an Amazon delivery. If you want to remodel your house, you go to them, he says. We're making our money $25 and $20 at a time. The company's co-op business model means its store owners are its only shareholders. It's the opposite of a franchise system. Thousands of employees Thousands of entrepreneurs like the Melniks band together to boost their collective buying power and reduce cost. The corporate structure, with Van Huysen at the helm since 2013, exists only to do their bidding, overseeing 14 regional distribution centers that supplies each store with the right mix of $800 Weber grills and $15 hammers. When an Ace store opens or an existing hardware outlet converts to Ace, the owner buys $5,000 in shares. He or she can purchase any of the 80,000 odd products from the co-op's warehouse, make use of the make use of the well-known red and white logo and branding, the helpful place, its motto promise, and receive dividends based on purchases rather than equity. That's good. That's pretty smart. Each store kicks in for activities that benefit the whole co-op, like advertising and marketing. AC's annual ad budget is $100 million. In the past 18 months, Ace has seen some 144 stores jump ship from competitors, including a handful from its two fellow hardware co-ops, True Value and Do It Best. During that time, just 49 Ace stores have left the fold. In order to increase your market share, you have to go out and steal stores from someone else, says Jim Robish, senior partner in retail at the Farnsworth Group, a home improvement industry consultancy. And if a store is consistently underperforming, Ace is really strict at controlling the integrity of their brand. They have a crew of people who go around and tear those Ace signs down whether you like it or not. A spokesperson says stores that fall short of standards must remove Ace logos, but they still have access to Ace supply chain. That's kind of smart. The company was born in 1924 when four Chicago area entrepreneurs decided they could get better deals on inventory by joining forces. Ace opened its first warehouse just prior to the 1929 crash and subsequent economic devastation. Its founders capitalizing on a need for hardware and tools as homeowners were forced to do their own patching up and repairing. The company briefly flirted with converting from a retail-owned co-op to a for-profit corporation during the most recent recession in 2007. There would have been no change in shareholder ownership, only structure, said Van Huysen. With the relatively new U.S. dividends tax structure, there is a less compelling capital argument to make such a conversion now. So we have no existing plan to do so. Next up, Ace is tackling same-day delivery, one of the hardest trends in retail. Tests in 32 stores across 6 states started on January the 26th. It's a pretty obvious move, says Van Huysen, since 70% of U.S. households are within a 15-minute drive of an Ace store. That's not bad. I don't know if you can deliver a grill with a drone, but our trucks get it there, he says with a grin. Besides, 60% of Ace's stores already provide delivery to customers, albeit in a haphazard way, more like a favor to a friend who doesn't have a car than part of a business model. Jeremy Melnick has delivered plungers. He's screwed in light bulbs. They do this already, says Van Huysen. Doesn't everybody? That was an interesting read. Quite an interesting read. Speaking of the New York Times, right? Speaking of the New York Times article. Speaking of the New York Times article, you know what? I'm gonna get back to that. That one hit a little closer to home, so I'm gonna get back to that. That one hit a little bit closer. His first trip overseas as the Democratic nominee in July generated much more excitement than mine did. He stopped in Iraq and Afghanistan as well as Jordan, Israel and the West Bank before visiting the capitals of our main European allies. He was greeted effusively not just by the government leaders he met, his public reception at some of his stops was rapturous. He gave a speech in Berlin that drew a crowd estimated to be as many as 250,000 people. Trump ain't never draw a crowd that big. Yo, Donald Trump, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care what you say, this is not fake news. You have never drawn a crowd 250,000 strong. You cannot get the park services, the National Park Services to provide made up photoshopped aerial views of a big crowd to prove that you have. You haven't. I know for a fact you haven't. Fuck you, you dumb truck. I tell you, I cannot believe they want to make this motherfucker president, yo. Cannot believe they want to make this motherfucker president. It was a spectacle that led to the news broadcast and dominated the front page. He has something going on alright, and figuring out how to challenge it and divert a little more interest in our directions was as difficult as it was imperative. Win or lose, I didn't want anyone ever to have fair grounds to criticize us for resorting to any kind of racist dog whistling. I wanted to win, I wanted to be president, but I too recognize the social progress Obama's candidacy will represent, and I didn't want to impede it by inciting, even with a wink and a nod here and there, or with language that has double meanings, the prejudices that has marred our history. You see the difference between a true real American and a fake American, like our president right now? This guy, McCain, has always wanted to be president. McCain has lived a life where president was the end result. Trump never had. You know what I mean? But because of that, the man, McCain could have easily, that's why I'm trying to tell you, 2008 was a year or 4 years, yo. I found my new modern day Dr. King, and I also realized that it's possible for a white man to be a Republican and also recognize racism and decide not to wanna take advantage of it. I hadn't seen that before. Like quite literally, McCain could have went off in any direction and do and say anything to let people know, to let white Americans know, like, no, don't vote for this nigga, right? Don't vote for this nigga right here. But he didn't though. He didn't have to, because he knew that that's not how you win. You don't go by doing that, because if he would have done that, he would have still continued. If McCain would have done that, Trump supporters would not have hated him today. Put it that way. You know what I mean? So yeah. But long story short though, we know what this motherfucker says on his way to the presidency. I'm not gonna recount everything here. It's a lot. I'm sorry.
I got shot.
Park went in.
I always felt like I'd be shot. Somebody tried to do me some harm. Because a lot of people don't like
I cautioned staff repeatedly, and senior staff. I cautioned staff repeatedly, and senior staff reiterated it repeatedly, to stay clear of any communication, formal or informal, or any event or any person that could be interpreted as suggesting race as a reason to vote for me and against Obama. That meant our criticism of him and any of his associates had to be carefully screened for a meaning we did not intend. We were on the receiving end of quite a number of attacks by his campaign and assorted democratic entities on people working with or associated with us in any way. We had to be more restrained in their line of attack, as we will learn again and again. The press was primed to prosecute any hint of racism. Every now and again, I had to chastise someone introducing me or warming me to the crowd or asking me a question for what could be construed or as at least an implicit racist remark, emphasizing Obama's middle name. Now y'all see why I be calling that man by his full government. That's like the biggest middle finger to white supremacy, yo. Like he was born Barack Hussein Obama. Yes, he already had 2 terms, so like I can't do nothing about that now. Y'all can't kill that man now. Y'all not going to. Say no point. You know what I mean? If y'all do at any point, if y'all ever take that man's life out, y'all would just galvanize the black race. Y'all can't do that. Y'all can't do that. Y'all know y'all ain't gonna do that. That would have been tantamount to shooting Dr. King while he was giving his I Have a Dream speech. Emphasizing Obama's middle name, claiming he was a secret Kenyan or Arab or Muslim and somehow disloyal to the country. Where do you think birtherism came from? Like, these motherfuckers to this day, they don't believe Obama is an American. They don't. I can't help you there. You know what I mean? If you don't believe that, I can't help you there. You need to just commit suicide. Yeah, I said it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to play. I'm not trying to play with the problem of suicide. I get it, and I mean like that's not where I'm going with it. But if you still in America think Obama wasn't an American, I can't help you there. Yeah. And the guy who came up with the whole theory of him not being born in America, asking for the birth certificate, he ended up becoming president after. I guarantee you, if McCain would have went along with what these people wanted back then, Trump would have came out and supported him then. But McCain is not that kind of human. He wasn't. May he rest in perfect peace. He wasn't, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Questioning his patriotism, his parentage, his travels and experiences as a young man, the occasional vulgar or cruel or racist shouts from the crowd, I condemned them when I heard it. I forbade all mention of the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, Obama's controversial pastor whose sermons had been the reason Obama felt it necessary to give his much praised speech on race the previous March. Fred Davis, who led our media team, had prepared an ad that attacked Obama's relationship with Wright. I rejected it. In July, Fred, Rick Davis, and Steve Schmidt proposed a kind of jujutsu ad that used my opponent's strength against him. In this case, the ad used Obama's global celebrity to raise doubts about his preparedness for the job of president, and by inference contrasted his experience unfavorably to mine. I thought it was fair play and still do. It was a 30-second spot with a female narrator over images of his Berlin visit, the pop culture celebrities of the time. Yep, 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 yep. I remember that. I first saw that ad when I was watching Jeopardy that night. Above the sounds of a crowd chanting Obama's name, the narrator intoned, "Yeah, he's the biggest celebrity in the world. Is he ready to lead?" I used to think that they kind of piggybacked off of Hillary's 3 a.m. phone call ad. That's why that came to it. That's why way that came to it. But obviously not. You know, he's the biggest celebrity in the world. Is he ready to lead? That was it. The ad took a couple quick shots at his positions on all duty and taxes. The ad took a couple quick shots at his positions on oil drilling and taxes, but they were sort of besides the point. Its purpose was to suggest that his sudden celebrity was not based on real achievements or better ideas. It didn't mention my record. It didn't need to. We would do that in our own media. Our message through that summer had two parts: ready on day one and country first. My war record, Navy career, long involvement with national security issues, long-standing relations with foreign leaders, and record of bipartisan accomplishment demonstrated more experience than could my opponent, who had been a state senator and briefly a U.S. senator before becoming the quote the biggest celebrity in the world. My support for the surge and other views that weren't always popular with Republican leaders or the conservative base, as well as my conduct as a PW, were presented as proof that I put the country before myself. It was our best case at the time and it worked. By the end of the month, we had put a dent in Obama's lead, and in August, a few polls, including Gallup's, had me slightly ahead. Everything we did was scrutinized by the other side and the media for any trace of below-the-belt insinuation. That included the celebrity ad. Questions were raised about whether we used Paris Hilton or Britney Spears' image in the ad to appeal to prejudiced white voters' fear of misogyny, or if we had darkened Obama's skin in the photograph we used. Silly shit like that was tossed at us regularly. Yo, McCain, yeah. I could tell that you were mad at that. My man literally wrote on page 47 at the end. He says, silly shit like that was tossed at us regularly. I fuck with McCain, yo. Not somebody who's gonna call a female presidential candidate opponent a line B, or not somebody that's gonna call NFL players sons of bees, or not somebody that's gonna say Mexicans are rapists and murderers and we're gonna build a wall. You know what I mean? Sit down. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Get down. We did not intend to play those games. We did not want to play those games, and we did not play those games. We did not want to set the country back or undermine the social significance of Obama's presidency. We took pains to stay clear of that stuff. We denounced anyone who resorted to it, and we were proud we did. That's why these motherfuckers after that, like, you know what? We don't want somebody who thinks like him, McCain. We want somebody who gonna do our bidding for us.